about the lack of awareness even on the manufacturer level. They want to learn more. BioBusiness Alliance, it's a new paradigm. Training along with research and development on how to get there is definitely a need. But it's how do you deliver that training? According to Chad at NDSU, he has spent a lot of time out in the field working with manufacturers. It's not saying you need to come to a seminar and we'll talk about it. It's, bring somebody out to my production line and show me how to do it. That's the kind of thing that there is strong interest in, and what he believes, at least, is that that's where the greatest success is going to come. There's 66% are saying manufacturers saying staffing and training needs aren't the biggest obstacle, but yet they do have concerns about their own production line. When it comes to learning more, 80% of manufacturers say they want to learn more. And how do they want to do it? It's kind of passive ways. They're busy, especially in this economy. They aren't going to go away to a lot of workshops. They want online, something they can read, that sort of thing. Information sharing, and this is a very important one, a point that we learned. To bring innovation through to commercialization requires planning, strategy, etc., and a willingness to share information. What we saw in the research time and time again is lots of really exciting things happening, and all these different people we talked to, but not a lot of that connecting of the dots. People not talking to each other, not realizing, we would say, well, did you know so-and-so is doing this over here? They go, no, I didn't know that. Okay, so why is that? I think that last comment. Why would I open my mouth? By sharing information, you can accelerate development cycle, but you kind of go, wait a minute, if I do, we're going to have a problem. So it's, I'm hesitant, to share. If I'm going to be, risking something here, I don't want to share. So you can see and understand where it's coming from, but not helping progress. I love this quote. This is very recent. It came from a forum that took place in New York. The strongest companies rely on powerful friends. The weakest tend to scale up alone. So again, the need for that collaboration is very, very strong. And we also heard that from some people that there's a belief that academia should rethink their willingness to work with the manufacturing community. Now I know there are a lot of institutions, U of M, NDSU, that are working with the manufacturing community. But one manufacturer said colleges need to recognize they should be training students, not creating IP. So again, everybody keeping the information to themselves, even if it's happening in isolated situations, isn't helping. Dean Aldi, U of M, we need a bigger ecosystem for innovation. We need to collaborate, which is part of why we're here. Eric Kaler, the president of the U of M, very much on board with that, saying we have to do a better job, we have to go to the manufacturing community, we need to work together more strongly. I think that's he's very new there. I think that's a really positive thing for everything we're talking about, because the interest appears to be growing on their part.
We've got about 7 minutes left.
We're doing fine.
Okay. So everybody who's been in biofuels knows the whole food versus fuel debate and all that sort of food or fuel, food and fuel type thing. That's going to be an issue as well. One of the things about plastics is you've got some additional feedstocks that we can work on, and there are a number of manufacturers who are using things like even distillers grains from the ethanol industry to reinforce plastics. Really interesting stuff.
And waste stream management, talk a little bit about that, about the fact you have to look at it at the life cycle, the entire life cycle analysis. You make these products, but if you don't have a way to dispose of them, you don't get the value out of that. So that's a whole other sector that needs to happen.
And this is, again, underscoring the fact that you've got durables as a huge part of the opportunity for biodegradable plastics or plastics. This underscores, this is Deb Darby from TELUS, underscores this need to connect the dots, to create more links in the value chain. We think that there's a real opportunity for individual companies to start to create partnerships on either side of their part of the chain and start to figure out ways to capture more value out of the chain.
At the same time, manufacturers are saying that they think by using bio-based material, it's going to help them, because in terms of their waste product, it may be easier to manage. Okay, so we have all these challenges. We want to go quickly through the fact that there are lots of opportunities too. you know, we asked everybody we interviewed the same question: where do you think the biggest opportunities are? You know, where is it? Because we're talking about durables, we're talking about, you know, all sorts of things. Olga Zeltnova said, you know, really there is no single answer. You know, we have to learn from the petroleum industry. There are a lot of opportunities out there.
This report came out of Battelle. Has anybody seen this? It just came out in the past week or so. It did a study of the 12, what they called the north central region of the United States, and particularly looked at the land-grant universities and the opportunity for ag bioscience in this nation to create economic vitality. And they said the 12 states in what they call the north central region, of which Minnesota is one, hold the greatest potential for economic vitality in the biocentury of, you know, the biocentury that we're in. Very exciting report because it basically underscores everything that Ari is doing and underscores everything that we're going to be talking about here today, in the fact that bio-based is where it's going. This is where most of the acres are. This is where the most of the production is. It's somewhere the most incredible research and innovation and outreach from educational institutions is happening. Great report. It just came out and, again, ties directly into what we're talking about. So, why Minnesota? Specifically, huge amount of intellectual capital here. You've got some of the leading Fortune 500 companies that are doing some of this stuff. You've got people who have left some of those Fortune 500 companies and started to do their own spin-offs, which is really wonderful. So there's and the educational institutions, from the state colleges to the universities, really great stuff. Tied with that is this innovative spirit. I mean, if you go through the list of things that have happened within bioplastics and bio-based materials, you know, in the United States, many of them have been generated here in Minnesota. There's kind of an environmental mindset up here that I think helps underscore that as well. And of course, you've got the agricultural production that is, again, the reason we're here to talk about how to transform that into economic opportunity. Manufacturers, huge amount of manufacturers up here who are receptive to this. As the research has shown, many are using it, many are way out in front of this. And this track record, I guess, in fostering what this is all about, the science and the research behind polymers. The University of Minnesota is a leader in the soy polymers and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of pieces and parts and factors that make Minnesota, we think, a really great grounds for this to happen.
From the Vitale report, agriculture has emerged once again as a robust platform for economic growth and solutions to broad-ranging human needs. Great quote. You know, there again, you know, talking about, you know, there are a lot of things in place. You know, this from the soybean board. So, you know, back to that question about where are the nearest term opportunities? What the threads that we were hearing, you know, again, there's mixed opinions on this, but pressure-sensitive adhesives, foams, hardened plastics, or durables, packaging, non-load bearing, you know, so there's, you know, it's pretty broad, but there are some sectors where there seems to be more agreement that they have the strongest potential. But it's going to take connecting of the dots. It'll take a little bit of capital, a little bit of risk tolerance before that kind of thing can happen, which is part of what this is about. It is a connecting of the dots today.
One of the things that has emerged out of this is what role does the biofuels industry play in all of this? And there are a number of pressures on the biofuels industry right now from a federal policy standpoint. You know, subsidies are on the chopping block. There are a lot of things that are happening. And so there's a huge biofuels infrastructure within this state. How can we leverage that to make the next step in bio-based plastics, and what's the next ethanol and soy biodiesel products that come out of this? Start to build a biorefinery campus concept and leverage those assets that are already in place by somehow, you know, putting startups in there, going into the green chemicals side. There's a really great infrastructure for that, and we think that's one of the real opportunities.
And, you know, again, talking about public-private partnerships, the strong need to make that happen, because addressing the cost is an issue, and it's going to take those partnerships and collaboration to get through the cost as well as some of the other issues out there, and the needs for transparency.
Yeah. And then what's happening in the labs has got to get out into the marketplace, and that's where the manufacturers need to be working shoulder to shoulder with researchers, not just in seminars, but actually in the plants. They need to use, manufacturers need to figure out how to adopt this so that they aren't compromising their future, aren't compromising their customers' ability to compete. This is going to happen, okay? I think the upshot of this is all going to happen. We're going there. There's some people out in front of it. Many of them are in Minnesota. How does Minnesota put groups like this together and say, let's make this happen here. Let's make this state a leader in this way, agriculturally, economically, technically, and from an innovation standpoint. So one of the things was that Harold said was, you know, in this economy, there's a lot of machines out there for sale. It might be one way that a manufacturer could pick up something relatively inexpensively, put it on the floor and set up a line and say, we're going to try bioplastics, or we're going to try bio-based products in our plant. We're just going to set up a separate line or pilot plant to do it type of thing.
Okay, and recommendations, you have this in the material in front of you, so I'm not going to read every one. But you know, basically, we developed recommendations on all of the research, talking about the need to shape awareness and understanding, to support the educational institutions, the good work that's already going on, provide education to manufacturers, a Connect the Dots conference, again, what this is about, evolving this into a community of innovation, which will be discussed later today. Raising the media profile of what's already taking place. A lot of good things happening. But it's also going to take collaboration and support that investment environment, very, very important. Just this week I was meeting with a company that developed a plastic bottle. And I said, well, you know, you're looking at bio-based material as part of this. And he said, I can't get the capital for that. You know, the venture capitalists are saying, you know, the consumers won't buy green. Well, Target sure is. You know, I mean, there are a lot of entities there, but again, it's an awareness. It's explaining this and sharing information with them. An innovation ecosystem, developing a strategic approach, which is one of the work groups today. Find ways to leverage the Biofuels Foundation that David was talking about. Financing demonstration projects, investigating ethanol biodiesel plants as being part of this campus idea. You know, considering a pilot plant, removing the barriers. You know, that regulatory environment really, really key to this, especially in that life cycle analysis, and supporting the disposal part of it, that closed system collection. Educational study of community-based composting potentially. So all these things were on the table. In May, there was a thought leader forum of industry experts to look at all of this and say, okay, number one, does this make sense? And number two, of all of this, what are the priorities? And the top 10 were these. Investment environment, you know, this was in order. Strategic approach. So in other words, you know, if we don't have a plan and we don't have the money, nothing much is going to happen. But the biofuels emerged as a strong priority, awareness, ecosystem, and on down the line. So a lot to do yet, but a lot of opportunity and a lot of enthusiasm for this, and obviously by the attendance at this event, that backs that up.